So yeah, my name is Samuel, and yeah, I'm also the student of the VFX, and most of the stuff that I interested in is the Unreal Engine and the use of the Unreal Engine and the real-time technologies that can be used not only in games but also in film, as we can see in throughout the latest years in Mandalorian and stuff like that. So I believe that's the future. So yeah, I really like the real-time workflows. So yeah, I can start the presentation. I divided it up in like two segments. The one that I will show now, and talk about the stuff on the slides. And then I have my personal projects that I want to show and showcase the stuff that I will talk about now, so that we can see some actual practical use of the stuff that I'm talking about. So yeah. So the first thing I want to touch is how is the real-time approach different to maybe the offline renderers, and I will compare it personally to like maybe Maya Redshift and the stuff I worked with and at work. So I think the main difference is the creation of the master shader. So I will talk about it like this: that you create one shader, that you create the one node graph network that can be instanced, then you can duplicate it with just some parameters, then you can change. So if you change the first shader, then all of them get updated. So that's quite different than what I'm used to with Redshift workflow, where we have like skin shader, and each character had its own skin, and the node graph just got cluttered. This way you just have the one node graph with all the logic behind it, like you can see on the screen. I just put it in there. The node graphs can get quite big, and whenever you need some changes, it updates on all the stuff that you have on the project. But the real-time approach, as you wanted the real time, you need to optimize the stuff. So maybe some of the stuff that people are used to in offline renders aren't possible within the real-time shaders, or they need to be faked or toned down in some way to get at least some results. I will talk about it later on. Some shaders just aren't that great, the glass shaders and stuff like that, that just need to have a ray traced or some kind of that solution. But from my experience in Unreal Engine, the glass is really hard to get right. And yeah, it needs more faking in a way that you don't do things a lot of time in a physically correct way, but you do it just to get the visual result that you want to get from it. And also, there is a lot of possibilities as within the node graph that I will show, that you can tie a lot of game logic and the logic of the scene into the material. So the position of the object can also sometime in some way change the appearance of the material on or objects around it, or some game logic that you can feed anything to the material, to the node graph, and use the data as much as you like. I know that's possible within some expressions in Maya and stuff like that, but in my opinion, it's much easier to set up in here and much more user-friendly than some kind of coding approach than that you would get in other DCC packages. And when I'm talking about the shader, and you need to think about the way how to create the shader, and what is the use, and what is the use and the technique of the shader. So personally, I worked more on a cinematic stuff inside of Unreal Engine, more than real-time stuff. Right now, I'm also working on my master's project that is in VR, so that's real-time use. So much different approach than you would get in cinematic. But in shots like these that I'm showing right now, the metahumans look nice and stuff like that. But to get the quality, like in this screenshot, you need to really pump up the parameters, and it can really show on the frame rates. But yeah, for the cinematics, you don't really need to think about that much of the optimizing, because if you get like, I don't know, 15 FPS on the viewport, it doesn't matter. You can just show it up into the render queue and, I don't know, give it 20, 30 seconds for each frame, and that's like quite enough. You just need to think about the memory. That's the only limitation. But I will also show that one and talk about it. And yeah, if the real-time use, you need to think about technical limitations, like the frame rates you need to get. Like right now, I'm gonna work on one project where they use the Unreal Engine scene on the LED screens. So you need at least, I don't know, about 100 FPS. They don't time lock them with cameras, so they need actually a smooth preview, and you don't really get it when you show when you put too much stuff into the node graphs and the materials and the textures, and you just clutter the GPU, and it can do the job properly. Also, the ray tracing, it helps a lot with visuals, but you get lots of drops. That's one of the latest techs, and some techniques just don't work for certain situations, like when you have those like Mandalorian LED screens. You are having multiple screens and multiple GPUs, and some stuff in game engines work like with faking it within the screen and the screen space. So some screen space reflections and stuff like that just don't work right when you combine multiple screens, because the engine doesn't really care about the other screens, as I would say. And also when you are building the shader, you must also think about what is it going to be used on. Is it like some procedural textures and tileables, like one in the middle, or maybe just some custom assets like on the right, some pillars or stuff like that, or a specific shader, like Unreal has specific shader for the eyes, for the subsurface skin and stuff like that. So you really need to think about the use before you start creating the shader, and lots of technical limitations that you will get along the way. Because I think when you don't plan it right up front, then fixing the stuff later on is much harder. And also, yeah, I would say the references are the most needed stuff for creating the material and the shader, because you need to really think about how it's constructed in logical way, how is the material created, like how it's layered, how to fake some stuff. As people work, as you work more with the real-time engines, you really find the blind spots of it, and find that you can't get the result right in a way that you thought. So you really need to fake it until you make it. And before I jump into the engine, I have some tips that I will also show for the real-time engines. Like as I said, you need to fake a lot of stuff inside of the real-time shaders, and that faking comes also with data that you can get out of meshes and out of the engine by default. So UVs are the most are your biggest friend, I would say, in creating the shaders that you want. Like you can create multiple UV sets, and you use them for different parts of the shader. So maybe you are tiling a texture on a one UV set, so you want it one-to-one with the UV space I have here down on the left. And then you have other one that you have some specific mask that you want to paint. So you create two UV sets and use something like that. And also the normals, mostly for the trees, you want to custom set up the normals, so you have some kind of shading that you want. It can be also seen on the bottom right image. Like when you set up the grass planes, you put all the normals up, so you would get that nice smooth shading along the surface for the grass, and a kind of clipping between the planes and stuff like that. So you really need to think about the normals also. And custom vertex paint, it helps a lot in real-time engines, because it's like almost free performance-wise. You can also do the custom vertex paint inside of Unreal and bake it into the mesh. So mesh has its own data, about the colors of the vertices that you can use inside the shader for some masking. And I would say that trying to learn about the system as a whole, as how it works, is the best way that you can get the most of it, and really find more creative ways on how to solve some issues. Like someone may think, okay, I will just create a linear mask inside the Photoshop and put it inside of Unreal. But you can also use just the basic texture coordinates that are inside of Unreal, which are just linear gradients of green and red going from different sides. And it's not clamped, so you wouldn't get any kind of stepping inside of it. So that's kind of one of creative ways that some people don't use, and it's almost for free. And just Google the problem, and sometimes you might even find there is a specific node in node graph for that simple thing that you want to achieve, like maybe having you create the normals and you want to have the backside normal facing the same way as the front side. So there is a simple two-sided sine node. There is a node for you to just input, and it works the way you want it to. And also, when I skip to another part, the optimization tips. As you would like to get as much as you can from the material, you also, as I said, have to think about the frame rates and stuff like that, and mainly the GPU memory, the graphics card. So I know the graphics are getting better and better over time. Like you have I think 24 gigs of VRAM on a 390, and I think that's quite enough for the Unreal, but I personally have 8 gigs, so I have to really think about the scenes I create. So channel packing the textures, like on the bottom left, this noise texture, it can be seen that I'm using different red, green, and blue channels for different masks, and you channel pack them so the engine doesn't need to look up for 3 different textures and 3 different images. You just you just put one of it inside of it, and you can get 3 different textures, or 4 if you use the alpha channels out of it. And trying to find some cheaper solutions. I know it's maybe hard to understand for someone that doesn't work with the system itself, but as I might explain it, the simplest in the logic on how will you construct the shader, then the cheaper I would say it is. And there are some small tricks inside of engine that are almost performance-wise free. And also try to find the lowest resolution that works for you for the project. Sometimes I just see some stuff that is 8K or 4K inside of engine, and then it's used for some tileable that is completely small, so you can get I don't know, maybe 256 pixels, and that would be just enough. And then the tileable textures, just tile the stuff as much as you can, just get the most out of the tiling to save the texture memory space and save your time also. Just not create the custom textures for everything. And I'm just kidding, and turning off the ray tracing helps a lot. And if you have some problems inside of the engine, maybe you have texture that has flipped normal channels. It happens a lot when you jump between the packages. Some people do it inside of the shader, and I'm mostly I personally prefer the way of fixing the problem in the root of it. So maybe swapping the channels before the engine or swapping the channels inside of the texture, but not doing it at the end of the pipeline and trying to do that, because when someone gets another person gets the texture and doesn't use your shader, it will be broken again. So yeah. And also sometimes flipped normals. I see people do it in shader and flipping them there. I know it helps to save a lot of time inside of when you are close to deadline and you have 1 hour until you send it. But if you have time, I would consider just fixing the stuff before before you get to the shading part, and not trying to do the stuff in the shader, because that also adds to the performance cost of the shader. So yeah, I will open up the project that I have to show you to show the stuff that I'm talking about on personal project. I just need to load it up. I don't know if you can see the screen or no. Yeah. I just turned off the hair because it's using the Alembic room from the Maya, but I lose a lot of frame rates when I put it in a high resolution. But this is kind of my personal project that I worked on like a year and a half ago, before the MetaHumans released, and it was like maybe 2 weeks before it released. Until I didn't finish it up when it released, because I was like really pissed off that I'm doing this, and now there is a full system that is already complete, and I didn't need to create and do all the setups myself. But yeah, I did all the shader and the skin stuff setups and the models and the textures all by myself in this one. So yeah, I know it from each side. But yeah, in this example, I wanted to show one of the things, and that is maybe the tie. And I thought about creating a Borat that is like in a cyberpunk era, because that was the release of the latest Borat movie, and also Cyberpunk released at the same time. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get views on ArtStation, and then I never finished it. So yeah, one of the things is the tie. And I think it's quite interesting in the shader view, because I created it in a way when you get up close, you can almost see like the LEDs inside of the tie, and see how they light up when the logo goes through it. So there is one instance of some shader stuff that I created that uses in this case camera distance from the mesh, just really a basic function. And I just show up the RGB LEDs when you get up close, because when you are really far away, it breaks the effect. Also, in this particular example, I also created I just added a fake Fresnel effect, I think, into the emissive channel, because I could in this particular shader I couldn't get the right reflections of it. I wanted to feel more like kind of a metallic or something like that. So yeah, I did put a Fresnel effect around the corners, so I would get at least some of the highlights on the tie when you look around it. I'm sorry for the frame rate drops. I will just turn off the hair. So yeah, there is also Fresnel effect, and yeah, there is not enough time for me to really talk about each node that I put like into this just this instance of a tie. There is not really much in this one. I will show up the skin shader and in way how I constructed that one. It will take a while to load it up. I have a lot of parameters in there. Yeah, so it can get a lot. It can look like Substance Designer in some ways, I would say, but this is the skin shader, and yeah, as you can see, creating some comments really helps when you get back to the project. So I hope I will get it right. But to show you maybe some kind of tricks that I created also, when you get up close, the pores get much more visible than when you are far away. That is one of the things that I also use. So the camera blend, I think, is the best way to do it. And also, as I talked, the glass material is really hard to get. It's also hard to get the bedline right in the eye. So in this instance, I created a custom mesh for the bedline, where I have the normals facing the correct way, so I can push it out and in, and having it blend with a mask. Also the edge of an eye, there is a mask. As you can see, it just fades away into nothing with an opacity mask on the edge of an eye. So there isn't much of a clipping. So it all needs some kind of faking it inside of Unreal to get it right. And the eyes are really hard to get. Like this is just from the Epic Games project, where they say that, you know, just use our eyes. That's the best option you can do, because yeah, there is a lot of shading tricks to get them right. So yeah, that is one instance I wanted to show up. Also, I wanted to show the power of, you know, just tiling and using the tilables inside of it. So the actual suite doesn't use any of, you know, custom texture. It's all just tiled micro normal map that I got and used. So I get all the detail that I want, and maybe just some roughness maps on top of it to get some of the fingerprints in there. And I think it adds a lot to the actual believability of the scene. I know it's still visible that it's real-time rendering, but yeah, this was my peak at the time to get to realism close as I can get. So yeah, that is one thing I wanted to show, and I don't know if I have more time, but there is yeah. Yeah. Okay. So there is also in the same project, I have another kind of face. I was doing characters a lot at that time, so I'm showing those and not really some environments, which I'm doing right now. But that's you know, confidential at work, so I can't show it. But this was done for one client where I did an R&D for facial animation, and also I did the shaders for the stuff. And the interesting thing I wanted to show in this particular example was how you can connect the shaders to the animation and the blend shapes. So when we take a look at, I will need to actually play the scene and wait for, okay, sorry, I will just need to move out because that is a play character that's in there, but I hope we can get it right. Yeah. So as you can see, when he raises his brows up, also a normal map shows up, and I have a blood flow map that is also connected inside the material. So also blood flows through his face when he talks. It's not really visible in this example. It's really visible in some extreme poses, but at least some kind of effect is being shown, and I think it adds to the realism, even if it's really subtle, but that helps to believability, and mainly the brows and the normals there. So you can also connect the multiple parts of the material and shader into, you know, as I said, into the game logic and the animation itself, and the animation derives how the material looks. And yeah, also this animation was done, it's me talking and just retargeting it. So it's really nice what you can get out of it inside of Unreal, and how much, you know, polygons it can get, it can process at the same time as I have this. Every single hair of the bird is just a polygon strip there, and it all gets its own shadows and stuff like that. So I think people shouldn't be like worried on how much polygons they want to put inside of Unreal. And now with this is Unreal Engine 4, and now with Unreal Engine 5, you can put like millions in there. I wouldn't recommend that because, you know, editing the stuff and all the way that you and all the things that you need to consider doing your pipeline. I think still some parts of all the workflow are better, but yeah, it will just evolve. And you know, maybe the pipeline that we are using now in 5 years will be all deprecated, and we will do the stuff in some new ways. But yeah, that's maybe some more of a philosophical talk. But yeah, this is the stuff I wanted to show. If there are any questions, or if I, you know, have even more time, I can show even more. Not really sure. Yeah. I have even one more, but it it lagged to me when I tried to open the map, so I hope it will load up while I talk. But yeah, from the shaders, I jumped more into the character shading and stuff like that. And yeah, the action will terminate. Okay, I hope it will load up. Yeah, this hair is just bad. I will just close it up. But yeah, this is more close to real human, like the Borat I did. But it also was done before the metahumans, where you can get it, out of the system. But this one was actually done for the cyberpunk ad. That this is actually a clothes designer, I think, and he had some collection connected to the cyberpunk, so it was an official collaboration, and this was actually used for the ad, not the one from the Unreal Engine. I did all the like previews in here, and then the final product was done, I think, in cinema. I didn't work on it in the offline renderers, but yeah, I think for games and stuff like that, it's really nice what you can get, but it still needs to catch up for the cinematic use, I would say. Even if you know all the shader magic that I talked about, if you know about it, you still need to get some kind of physically correct, stuff in there to really match the realism of the offline renders. But yeah, what I mostly do for now for the ads and cinematics inside of Unreal, we actually gonna use an Unreal Engine environment for the background, and in the final ad for the TV, and just render the characters in an offline render, and then combine it in compositing. So it's already like combined in that, and it's a small ad, so I really like that. And for the characters, we use the characters for the preview purposes. So to create some lighting references for the lighters, to create cameras, to really see if the animation and cuts work. It's much friendlier to use it in real-time engine. When I talk with a director that's sitting next to me, he can go, yeah, push the camera in here, and he can already see the lights and the animation all going in real time, and it really helps to shape like a better product in the end. You get you can be more creative with the ideas and try the stuff, because you are not limited to waiting for a computer to do all the stuff behind the scenes, when you click the one button and you like stare at it for 5 minutes to see if it's right or not, and then you change another parameter, and then you wait another 5 minutes, and so on. So I believe this is gonna be the future. So yeah, that's maybe what I want to tell.
Yeah, hi. I have a question about importing textures. So, what's the best texture format to use?
Oh yeah, the textures. Yeah, it depends on the use of the texture, but yeah, the best format you can get, I think, the one of the best are AXRs and TIFFs to import AXRs for HDR maps, and TIFFs 32 bits when you have the texture that has the bit depth. So maybe the displacement maps need to be higher bit depth, and import them in an AXR or TIFF file. But sometimes you get PNGs which are 8-bit, and they say that this is the displacement map. That's unusable for the displacement. It just looks terrible, or all the steps and stuff like that there. So yeah, you really need to think about the use of the maps and what you can get. But if you had 8 bits, I think PNGs in most of the stuff are quite okay. But for the masks, sometimes you want a bigger bit depth to not get any clamps or stepping when you have like a really close-up detail and you see that it doesn't look right. So yeah, you really need to think about how you'll use the texture. Yeah, that's about it. I hope I answered.
So I would like to ask if you know if there are any major differences in terms of shading between Unreal Engine 4 and 5.
Yeah, there are, and there is one that actually I'm really angry about. The one difference that I personally struggle most is that they removed the displacement and tessellation from Unreal Engine 5, so you don't get any of the displacement inside of Unreal Engine 5 on characters on animated meshes. You can bake it into static meshes, but for the animated characters, you can't get it for now. And I heard they are gonna, you know, make some additional changes and have some another workflow for the characters in like another in another release like 5.1. But for now, that is like completely gone, so I can't use it for characters for now. And there is gonna be completely a new shader system inside of Unreal 5, like that works in a bit different way, but yeah, the nodes will be there and stuff like that. It's gonna be called strata materials, and it's not really already there. You can I can send a link. There is a special video from one developer from yesterday actually that you can compile the version of the engine by yourself and try those materials and shaders. So yeah, there are differences. There is a lot more when you are using, you know, there is the new lighting system, Lumen, and the new system for those high poly meshes, and they all have their limitations on what can be used and what not. So yeah, there is a lot of differences, I would say, but to name each one of them, that will take quite a long time. So yeah. I would just stay inside of Unreal Engine 4 until you know all the problems and the things that you can do aren't solved inside of 5. But for environments, it's great for environments, much better than 4.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. I liked it very much.